El Dakruri mountain is a very famous mountain in Siwa Oasis. It's a place which holds a lot of history, pharaonic history. This place is called Tourism Location Festival Place, where the people of Siwa comes annually to celebrate a special religious Islamic festival. In that festival, they stay here for some days, and then they go back to the city. So they use this place only once a year, but it holds a very important significance for the people of the oasis. The tomb of Sidi Soliman, which lies next to the new mosque in the wide square of Siwa city, is considered the most glorified places in Siwa. That's due to the fact that Sidi Soliman is the father of walis or saints for the Syrians, in whom they believe in sanctity and his miraculous abilities. Celebrating his birthday comes after harvesting the seeds, and it seems that this festival came to replace two old feasts which don't have religious characters. They are Ashura feast and an ancient harvest feast. But in reality, celebrating his birthday holds within all the common elements of all previous festivals. Today's festival is also called the Harvest Feast or the Tourism Feast. Each year, when the two main cultivations of the oasis, the dates and the olives, are ripe enough to be harvested in October, the celebrations start. According to the oasis rituals, a special type of bread is baked, and it's called El Mugardag, and is collected from the houses by those volunteers who serve the mosque situated in each suburb. An amount of money is collected too. Then most people, young and old, leave to El Dakrur mountain to stay for 3 days. The mountain is chosen due to its history in being used in an ancient feast. In that feast, the Syrians used to spend few nights at the time of the full moon of Ragab Islamic month in tents at the foot of El Dakrur mountain. They considered their staying there a vacation, in which every man and woman ate as much garlic as possible, thinking that it will provide them with good health throughout the year. This habit is no longer followed, as it merged into the rituals of celebrating Sidi Soliman feast and its core of beliefs, which needed also rituals of its own. The Syrians leave their original houses and come to stay for 3 days at the foot of El Dakrur mountain. These small buildings are built of the local building bricks of Karshif, which is a Syrian salty mud, and topped with palm reeds, covering the ceilings. Usually there are no doors or windows, and those who don't have houses, they build huts made of reeds or set up tents. Cows and camels and sheep are slaughtered, and food is prepared for people. They are invited to sit in rings on the sand to declare equality and piousness. A special meal is prepared. It's made of rice and bread and soup and garlic, and it's called fatah. During cooking, they sing religious chants and hymns through the loudspeaker fixated on top of the minaret of the mosque. Later, they share food together. At night, reconciliation rings are set, and those who have problems and fights sit together, and the elders discuss their issues and reconcile them in an air of tolerance and love and equality. After dinner and night prayers, men gather and perform El Zikr ceremony, in which they chant repeatedly the name of God, Allah, and move their bodies on the beat of a trumpet. This ceremony is called El Hadra. On the fourth day, people leave El Dakrur with their belongings and go back home, except for the leaders of that festival. They raise a green flag decorated with the name of Prophet Muhammad and his 4 successors, and walk from El Dakrur to Shali Square and perform a short zikr or religious chanting. This festival may go back to 180 years, when the religious group of El Madaniya started their Sufism way. There are about 35 walis or Muslim saints in Siwa, but the most famous and the main one is Sidi Solomon, whose feast is connected with El Dakrur mountain, and together they form one of the distinctive touristic attractions in Siwa. El Dakrur mountain is that mountain which is amidst the depression of Siwa Oasis and is composed of a high hill 5 kilometers south of Siwa city. The hill is distinguished by its healthy climate and the abundance of its fresh water. Folkloric legends tell that El Dakrur mountain is the mountain of King Ibrik, who is one of the kings of ancient Siwa, and that his treasures are hidden and buried in this mountain. Another story connects the mountain with Ubaydah temple and the Oracle temple and the tombs of the Mountain of the Dead. The fable says that there is a tunnel under the ground that joins between these ancient 3 sites. There's supposed to be an aisle or a passage that joins between the main center of Amon's cult and the main cemetery of the Oasis, which is the Mountain of the Dead. There must have been rituals and traditions that were held, connected with the 2 locations, and from there came the idea of the existence of a tunnel. In Agurmi, the German expedition uncovered a tunnel that leads from the court of the royal palace to below the water well in the same area. The visitors of Dakrur mountain can see some openings on the hillsides close to the city. Most of them are tombs barren from reliefs and go back to the Roman period. And since these tombs were burial places for the inhabitants of the city, thus the old capital was situated in the current place of Agurmi. In general, a lot of the openings on the sides of the hill were hewn out by the poor people to live in them, whether in old or modern times. For digging caves and enlarging them to live in them happened in ancient times in many parts of the world, and still happens almost everywhere today. These chambers that were cut out in the rocks provided people with shelter in the cold seasons of the year, besides being kind of cool in the summer. In the northwest side of the middle mass of El Dakrur mountain, there are 2 caves, cut out in the rocks that most probably date back to the late Pharaonic period, during the time of the 26th or 30th dynasties, or the beginning of the Ptolemaic period. In between the two caves, there is an ancient monumental quarry that goes back to the time of building the two temples of Ammon, the Oracle Temple and Umm Temple. In one of the northern corners of the quarry, there is a Greek sunk relief written by the workers of that time, which is the 4th century BC. On top of the middle mountain, and also in the mountain of Nasra, there are about 4 or 5 sites where they started cutting out stones, but the work had stopped, either because of the bad quality of the stone or for any other reason. But the cutting took place in the quarry of the middle of the mountain. There are 2 temples in Siwa consecrated for the cult of god Ammon, and they are both in Agurmi, 4 kilometers away from the center of Siwa city. The first temple was built on the big rock that lies in the middle of the decaying old village of Agurmi, which inhabitants abandoned 2 times, the last of which was in 1928, when heavy rain fell on the oasis for 3 days continuously. That is the famous Oracle Temple. Many years ago, the rock of Agurmi started to crack and many massive rocks fell off, so stones could be seen today scattered here and there. Some of them are from the original rock, and the rest are from the quarry of El Dakrur mountain. The second temple is Umm Temple, and it lies at very close range from Agurmi's rock. Till the beginning of the 19th century, a big part of the temple was in a good condition, but in 1811, an earthquake destroyed a part of it. The location is distinguished with a big space that's white in color, as white stones are scattered everywhere, and they're cut from the quarries of El Dakrur mountain. In the middle of the massive mountainous chunk and in the northwest of El Dakrur mountain, there are 2 caves cut out into the rocks. The first tomb was cut in the middle of the hill. Its entrance is directed towards the west, where the spirit of the deceased dwells with the setting sun. This tomb is called in Syrian language Tan Ashur. Its walls are barren from reliefs, and it has 6 pillars cut out into the same rock of the tomb. Some of the modern time visitors had written their names on the walls. Close to the top of the hill that lies amidst of El Dakrur mountain in Siwa oasis lies a second tomb cut out in the rocks. Its entrance opens to the north, and it lies southwest of the other big cutout tomb. It's called Ten El Fifan, which is a Syrian name that means the one with hats. That's because the people of Siwa noticed that the capitals of the 4 columns inside the tomb resemble the local hat or the head cover which they wear, and is composed of a hat wrapped with linen scarf. The hewn-out ceiling of that tomb rests on 4 columns, but the body of these columns were taken or removed earlier. The capitals are still there though. They take the shape of the papyrus flower, and thus they are called papyrus columns. On the right side of the entrance there is a small chamber, and in the rear part of the cave there are 3 small chambers. The intimidating, fearful style of the columns' capitals paved the way to invent many stories about King Ebrik. They say that he's buried in here with his treasures and is guarded by jinnis and demons. Thus, the tomb was subjected to a lot of destruction by the natives and treasure hunters. To the left side of the aisle, there are 3 lines of Greek writings. These tombs are bigger in size than the tombs of the Mountain of the Dead and different in design, and there is a chance that there are other tombs. They date back to the Ptolemaic period, or even older than that. Near the top of the hill, there is a layer of limestone used in ancient times as quarries, and thus considered one of the places where stones were cut to build temples in this oasis. As for the other quarries, they are in the area of Bilad al-Rum. Safety in Siwa Oasis could be felt everywhere, for you can leave your belongings somewhere and retrieve them as they are, wherever you left them, even for a few days later. When you visit El Dakrur mountain area, you'll find that all the houses have no doors. They're left like that, wide open most of the time of the year. They're only inhabited during tourism festival and Eid al-Adha festival days. After that, the owners of these houses return to their homes in the city and leave their houses. Meanwhile, no one enters these houses or try to invade these properties. There are conventional rules that are applied on the Bedouins here, and everyone respects them. These rules are as ancient as the civilization of Egypt, and they govern all the Bedouin cities anywhere in Egypt. They are what makes the people live safely and enjoy life in these remote but lovely oases of Egypt.